What's up, YouTube? I'm bringing you a very quick report that I had from a PlayStation 5 tournament, which I went 1-2 drop. I just left. So I did play Hero Frogs. Typically not something that I do. But, I was going to, had a really good time, played some interesting things. So I've been playing Frogs for a long time now. We'll start off 3 swap. This is new to me. I typically play 2 swap. But I did go 3 because, I was able to find the space, I guess. This could have been realistically a lot of different cards. I think 2 swap is still a really good number. In fact, one of my games I lost because it just opened up too many frogs. Swap was the one good card in the hand, so I can't be mad about it, but 3 swap, 3 substitute, 3 dupe frog, sorry, 2 dupe frog, and 2 treeborn. So pretty standard for frogs. Again, I could have gone 2 on the swap frog. I did go 3. That's not normal for me. I typically only run 2 in a lot of my frog builds. I think I'd probably go back to 2. So going into the heroes, just some of the normal stuff. The Stratos, the Malicious Edge, that was really good. Infernal Prodigy, that was pretty good. The Ocean, it's Ocean, so it's good. And here's an interesting one. I actually ran a Wild Heart. The reason I ran Wild Heart over what's typically Alias is because what I found is that I don't typically have problems, I guess against like strong monsters, right? Between Miracle Fusion and like Caius and stuff like that. And I guess, Stratos and this. Strong monsters don't really kill me. What kills me is the deep prisons, the bottomlesses, stuff that banishes the heroes. But then the Fossil Dyna, man. I've lost so many games to Fossil Dyna where Wild Heart is just able to summon and swing into Fossil Dyna unless they have Book of Moon or Econ. And who uses that, especially against frog decks? Wild Heart's going to kill their Fossil Dyna and then it's going to stay on the board. So Wild Heart actually ended up winning me 3 games today, I think. Like, Wild Heart played really well for what it was. And I'll talk about that a little bit once I go into the matches. And then I played, the standard 3 of Caius, 1 Sphere of Chaos. So Sphere of Chaos is a card that I've really been down for over the past couple of weeks. I was playing a bit of a burn build earlier that played double Dandelion, but I dropped it down to 1 Sphere of Chaos and then 3 targets, being Dandelion, who's incredible with all the discard stuff and just walling and being, just an extra sub target or an extra monarch target. Junk Synchron, who is, Junk Synchron. And then 1 King of the Swamp. King of the Swamp in testing played really well. I believe today, I want to say I played 9 games and I got it like 1 time and ended up being a Swap Frog discard. Otherwise, I did not draw this and I did not draw Polymerization the entire tournament, which was sad because the idea being that if I have a absolute 0 on the board, I can just King of the Swamp into Polymerize Treeborn and 0 into another 0, blow up their board, and then I just get all the pluses, right? So, in theory, King of the Swamp worked really well, but it just didn't play out in actuality. I will say today, as I'm going through this, the deck just played super well, super duper well. That's it for the monsters. Going on to the spells, we have the 3 Miracle Fusion and the 1, where is it? Polymerization to match the King of the Swamp. Miracle Fusion actually 3 of clogged. I want to say it's once or twice. I drew 2 of them with no heroes. Never had a situation where I didn't have the waters, especially King of the Swamp to help with that, because I did King of the Swamp Miracle Fusion. I want to say it's once, maybe twice. I forget. Polymerization, again, I don't think I had this card the entire tournament. And Future Fusion, did not draw it. In the 9 games I played, I did not draw it. Rudda E-Call. I would almost be willing to move E-Call up to 2 copies, just because that turn 1 Stratos is so important. MST, Heavy Storm, Brain Control, 1 for 1, obviously also better with Dandelion. And then the last card was Soul Exchange. So this card I'm iffy about. The reason, I went Soul Exchange over Enemy Controller is because obviously it works great going second with the Substone. But it also works really well going second with Sphere of Chaos, right? So if they just set a monster, I can Soul Exchange Sphere of Chaos. I don't have to rely on that Caius or whatever it is, and then I just get my Sphere of Chaos search. And because Sphere's effect, it's probably going to stick another turn. At least that's what's happened in a lot of my experience. So I went with Soul Exchange. However, I also sided a Soul Exchange. And whenever I would side into, I definitely lost like games because I just drew double Soul Exchange and nothing to do with them. So that was unfortunate. I think moving forward, I don't know. The idea of multiple soul exchanges obviously sounds really good, but I think I'll switch. I, I don't know. That's a tough. Running 2 just does sound good, but I don't think I'd ever want to run more than 2. And then traps. 4 discards and trap dust shoot. Dust shoot was insane. I was siding this, but I decided, hey, let's just go ahead and switch this to the main deck. And I won, I don't know, maybe 2-3 games just because I opened up with it. And then into the side deck, we have Unifrog. Could have been mained. I ended up siding this. Really great card. Snowman Eater. Searchable, along with Puppet Plant by Sphere of Chaos. Both were really good. Actually, both of these were good. Snowman Eater actually just straight up won me a game. Puppet Plant I didn't use because my matchups were very unfortunate. The macro stun deck with like Banishers and D-Fissures and Thunder Kings and King Tiger Wangoos. Round 1 of all decks. And then round 2 I played what was it, Vayu Turbo, and then Fairies round 3. So I never really got a chance to use that. Phosphodina, again, never really had the opportunity. I guess I could have brought this in against the Fairy player, but I don't think Phosphodina is too particularly great against Fairies because they just swing over. Sirocco, I sided this in 2 different matches, and both times it either got bottomless or D-Prison, so, you know, I don't know if that's good or bad. Mobius, I did side this in 1 time, and it was against the Vayu player. And that's what lost me the match, is unfortunately he had Starlight Road. I was kind of perplexed that he kept Starlight Road in against Mobius, but that's okay. And then Vanity's Fiend. So I only like running 1 because I don't like drawing multiple Vanity's Fiend. That might change. Because, you know, against like frogs, I find Phosphodina much better against a frog deck. Vanity's Fiend's obviously still a really good card. Going on the spells, Soul Exchange, again, I might change this to something else moving forward. It was not particularly great today. It didn't help me out anything that was blocking me. It just stuck in my hand, didn't do anything. Lightning Vortex, this card was insane. If you haven't tried Vortex, try Vortex. I was not running Vortex prior to this, but with all my discards and whatnot, it won me games that I should not have won. Spiritual Water Art, I only drew it 1 time. I think I sided it in 3 matches, maybe 2 or 3 matches, I forget. Only drew it once, and it was a very unfortunate game that I'll talk about after this. Mind Crush, I think I sided against Vayu along with Spiritual Water Art. Didn't draw it. Torrent won me a game against Vayu because, again, actually it was because of Wildheart. Torrent, Wildheart blew up his Dark Armed, and then Wildheart, he couldn't get over Wildheart at 1500, and he couldn't Mirror Force. His back rows were his own Torrent, Mirror Force, Bottomless. I think he had a Pulling the Rug, and he just couldn't get over Wildheart, so I ended up just winning because of it. My own Mirror Force, I don't know how much I sided that in. And if I did side it in, I don't know how much I used it. And then 2 Dust Tornadoes. And these came in clutch. So we're going to the rounds a little bit. I'll go through the deck again. As I talk about it, move these off to the side. Going into the rounds. Round 1, I played a macro stun deck. And actually, you know, he went first and goes summon Banisher, set, what, like 3 back row? I think it was set 2 back row and activated D-Fissure. And I forget what happened, but I was able to out the Banisher pretty early. I think I was either able to go into Stratos to get Wildheart, I believe it was, and I attacked. He de-prisoned, so it got banished, but I think I had Wildheart. I was able to sit on Wildheart. I set Wildheart, he attacked into it, and then he attacked with a Thunder King Ryo, and I think I had a Raigeki break to destroy the Thunder King. He couldn't get over the Wildheart. Next turn, I think I sacked the Wildheart for Caius to banish his Banisher, but it also banished, like, he bottomless or something, or maybe he de-prisoned one attack, I forget. But he ended up taking 2 cards with that, so I was able, between, like, you know, the Strato Search, and then the Caius Summon, I got him down pretty low, and the rest of his back rows, outside of D-Fissure, were just, like, kind of blanks. Like, they were Dark Bribes and stuff like that. I think he might have had Starlight Road too. At the very end of the game, I had full graveyard with like Treeborns and everything engraved. He had 2 cards. He had a Heavy Storm and an enemy control, and I knew that because I had just Trap Dust Shoot at him pretty recently. I think like the turn prior. And so I had a Caius on board that I attacked with. He used a enemy control on board, so his hand was still Heavy Storm, and enemy controller, no other cards. My cast was in defense. I discarded a swap frog to special summon another swap, return this to hand, full graveyard, and this was my only card in hand. This and a King of the Swamp, because I think I still had a lot of heroes left, so I was just kind of waiting for King of the Swamp to discard it to grab Polymerization when I drew a hero, or if I drew the Polymerization first, that would have worked with King of the Swamp. One way or another, I would have made it work. But his turn, he actually top decks Kaiko, switches this to attack mode with enemy controller. I take 200, banishes both my Treeborn Frogs. And then on my turn, I drew into a second Caius. So now I had 2 Caius and a King of the Swamp to his... He only had 200 life points at the time. 200, 700, something like that. And I just lost because his next attack, he banished my only hero that was engraved. And then on my third turn, right after he banished my Ocean, I drew Miracle Fusion. So I just ended up losing that game. Game 2, I ended up winning... Again, off the back of Raigeki Break. He had a really strong setup. Again, turn 1, full combo. Not full combo, but monster, like a Thunder King maybe. And D-Fissure, along with, like, I think he had 5 back row set this time. And just because of Raigeki Break and Caius, I was able to just eventually play through all of his back row. Got him down to very low. I kind of forget this game, but I just ended up attacking for, it might have been Wildheart. I think Wildheart played a big role in this game too because he couldn't get rid of anything. The big play for game 2 that actually just really put me super far ahead was turn 1. I went first, so I just set Snow Man-Eater. He summoned King Tiger attack, destroyed King Tiger, took the damage, and then like a turn later, I was able to sacrifice it for Caius, ended up banishing a back row, and he used Bottomless, and he only had, 4 cards left by the time that I was able to start ripping through his field and all of his boards. So Snow Man-Eater, almost worth... I might want to put that up to 2. It played pretty well. And then the last game, I got him down to like 200 life points pretty early. And then neither of us topped anything for a long time. All my frogs were gone. I think 2 Caius were gone. I didn't even know what my win condition was. So I just like was sitting on a sub in defense. And I had no other cards. He had 4 back row. I top deck into a Mobius. And for whatever reason, I forget what it was. I just didn't want to summon the Mobius. Because he showed Starlight Road the game prior. So I didn't want to go into Mobius and him just Starlight Road because, yeah, we were going into time. I think we actually went into time. Like, we were 20 seconds away from going into time. So I didn't want to summon Mobius. So I just sat on it because he had so many back row. And on his turn, he knew we were going in time. He had 200 to, like, my 6,000 life points. So he just summoned a Fossil Dyna and attacked. And because of defense, he ended up losing that. So that was round 1. Very tough game against a pretty good player. Like, right? Like, I don't know who he was, never met him before, but he clearly knew what he was doing and made some solid plays. But I ended up winning, so tough match. Going into round 2, I played against Vayu Turbo, and I don't think this guy opened up great round 1, or game 1, but he had Dark Arm Dragon. So I had, on my board, I had like a Substitoad, double Dupe Frog, and I think it was also... this might have been the game. I think that was actually game 3. I think this was just my board. And he was at, I think it was 700. No, he was at 200 life points for sure. 200 or 700. Again, I keep mixing those numbers up. He was pretty low. He was 1 attack away. And then he ended up like just randomly DD crowing, getting a 3rd Dark in the grave, dropping Dark Arm Dragon, blew up my entire board, and he was able to OTK me from 6,000 life points. Even though at one point, I think at that exact time, he had 3 cards to my like 6. Because I had this Duplock plus like 4 cards in hand. So I just straight up just lost to Dark Arm Dragon because that's just how it goes. He also had Trap Dushu, so he was able to perfectly play against me as I played. Going into game 2, I actually, again, opened up pretty well, but I had a Wild Heart in hand, and this was key because I had a Wild Heart, and I sided in Torrent. He had Dark Arm Dragon again, but he had to play really hard. He had to like randomly discard 2 Vayus, I think, and another DD Crow just to get there. They weren't doing anything because he didn't draw his Greffers. But he destroyed my board. On my turn, I set a Torrent knowing he was out of Dark. So I set Torrent. He couldn't do anything. He attacked. I took 28. And he had 4 back rows. So at this point, he had Dark Arm with 4 back row because my Heavy Storm was gone. I tried to bait him because he didn't have Dark Arm. So I just set Heavy Storm into setting more back row because he knew I had Torrent from a Trap Dust Shoot. He got it again, so I just set Heavy Storm instead of my Torrent, hoping to bait him. He ended up summoning Dad, destroyed the Heavy Storm, set 4 back row. My turn, I set Torrent because he didn't have any other cards, and passed. His turn, he attacks. I might have Treeborn Frog at the time, I forget. On my turn, I summoned Wild Heart, Flip Torrent, destroy his Dark Arm, and maybe one other monster, I think, and just attacked. And I got him down to this. He was verifiably at 200 life points because of Wild Heart. Because again, he had Mirror Force, Torrent, Pulling the Rug, and I forget what the other card was. He had like one other, just maybe Death Tornado or something. I don't know. But Wild Heart just ended up winning because he couldn't get over it. He did draw into a Greffer at some point and tried to swing over it, but he couldn't. Had something to protect it. I forget what it was. I might have sided something in. I forget. But Wild Heart ended up being protected. And I just won that game because I ended up having Brain Control Mobius towards the end. And he just couldn't stop my Mobius. But Wild Heart got him down to 200 and I just won because of it. Going into game 3, what happened? This game I don't even remember. This was extremely back and forth. Like these matches, don't get me wrong. I lost Dark Arm Dragon and Brain Control. Not Brain Control. Dark Arm Dragon and Trap Dust Shoot. Basically like 2 games in a row at this point. I don't even know if he used value like 1 time. So maybe it's not great for him, but the games ended up being really good. But I lost time in the last game. I had an absolute 0 on the board. Sacrificed it for Mobius on my last turn, which, you know, Mobius would have destroyed his 2 back rows. 0 would destroy his 2 monsters. I just needed him not to have anything chainable, but he had Starlight Road. He kept in Starlight Road against me. So he ended up winning that game. Still a good game. So I'm 1-1 going into round 3 against a Fairy player who just picked up the deck literally a month ago. He said he played. Game 1, I just stomped him. I drew Trap Dust Shoot turn 1, and it wasn't even close. His opening hand was Warrior Lady, Shining Angel, Honest, Gale, Bottomless, and like Road Decree, something like that. And it was over before it started. Game 2, I forget what happened. Game 2. Oh, game 2, that's right. So game 2, this was my opening hand. Was Dupe Frog, Double Treeborn, Swap Frog. Where is it? Soul Exchange. And one other card that I can't remember off the top of my hand. I think it was a spell. No, this is what it was. I sided this in against fairies. So this was my opening hand. So I'm looking at it thinking, wow, this is pretty atrocious. But I discard Treeborn, special summon swap. I went first. I went second. I went second. He just summoned a monster. So I summoned swap. Attacked over his set monster. It was Shining Angel. So you got another Shining Angel. So then I returned swap the hand, set this normal summon Treeborn for my swap effect, and spent Spiritual Water up. You know, the expectation being that I have Treeborn in grave, Treeborn on field. He's not going to be able to get rid of this. If he attacks, I'm just going to tribute it, and then we're going to just go in. He actually had Nobleman of Crossout, and if there's anything I hate in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it is literally just like Nobleman of Crossout. I don't play GOAT format specifically because of Nobleman of Crossout. It's just the most luck-based of did you have it or did you not have it card ever created in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. And he had it. This is the only situation where I would ever set a monster was just having exactly this field turn 1. So he Noblemaned, summoned another monster, attacked. I just went ahead and used my Spiritual Water so I didn't block off my Treeborn. Hit something out of his hand, and I just ended up... This is my hand, and I don't even know what I drew in, but this comes back, and I just lose in like 2 turns because he drew Nobleman of Crossout, and I lost Nobleman. And then going into game 3, he just gets straight to 4 fairies in the grave, summons Christia. I think I misplayed a little bit, but it was tough because his hand after he summoned Christia was a Herald of Orange Light, a fairy, Shining Angel specifically is what he was using, and an Honest. So he has Christia on board. And what happened? I used Raigeki Break to destroy his Christia. So he's top decking Christia with nothing on board. Or he's top decking Christia, 4 cards in hand. Thunder King is what it ended up because he normal summoned Thunder King. He had Honest, Herald of Orange Light, Shining Angel, and Thunder King in his hand. And top decking Christia with 3 fairies in the grave. So he summons Thunder King after I Raigeki Break to Christia. Hits for 19. My turn. My hand was like Miracle Fusion, Treeborn Frog, and what was the last card? Miracle Fusion, Treeborn Frog, and Vanity's Fiend. So I have a couple options. Just because I know what I want to do is just get his get him over 4 fairies. So I need him to use every single card in his hand. So what I should have done, I guess what I could have done, was Miracle Fusion into 0. Sacrifice this for Vanity's Fiend. Swing. If he uses Honest, it destroys his Thunder King. Puts him at 4 engrave, but I have this. The problem is, he probably would have let it die. He should let it die. The problem is that then he has literally any monster plus Honest gets over this. Honest would have been his 4th fairy, and he just summoned Christy again, and I just lose. So what I ended up doing, and he played into it perfectly. He played into it exactly as I wanted. I use Absolute Zero, bring it out, sacrifice it for Vanity's Fiend. He uses Herald of Orange Light to destroy the Absolute Zero, so 0 dies. He's at 5 fairies in the grave, because remember, he's at 3, so he sends Shining Angel. He's at 3. So then I just pass, because I want him to attack the Vanity's Fiend on his turn. So he draws into the Christia, swings over Treeborn. My turn, I draw into Stratos. Was it Stratos? Yeah, it was Stratos. Not very good because he has the Thunder King, obviously. So I don't do anything. I could have attacked, but he would have done that, and then I just have a dead Stratos in my hand, and then he'd be able to summon Christia. So I just pass because I can't attack. I have to leave this on board. His turn, he finally attacks over this, uses his Honest, puts him at 6 fairies in the graveyard at this point, and just Thunder King. My turn, I draw, bring this back. I draw into an Ocean, I think, and I just said Ocean. So mind you, his hand now is 2 cards, a Thunder King on board. He has 6 fairies in the grave, and there's that. His turn, he draws something, doesn't do anything. It doesn't even attack. My turn, I draw on the Gores. So I guess I could have waited on it, but I figured, hey, he has so many fairies in the grave. If I summon Gores right here, I can summon Gores, swing over the Thunder King, because remember, he has 3 cards in hand. Actually, he had 2 cards in hand at this point. I lied. He had 2 cards in hand. I just summoned this, attack over it, hope he doesn't have exactly Honest, and he doesn't. So I destroyed the Thunder King. Next turn, I summon Stratos, and that's game. His turn, he draws, and on his last card of the game, draws Freed the Brave Wanderer, summons it, removes 2 fairies, puts him back at 4 fairies, summons Christia. His hand was 2 Christias, and then he top decked Freed. So literally any other card, and I basically win next turn. But that's how I ended up losing. So I was definitely a little bit upset by that. But maybe I played it a little wrong. I think I played it right. I don't know. So again, that was my deck profile. That was my event as I played through. And I will say, again, I enjoy the deck. Try Wildheart if you haven't tried Wildheart. I think with Wildheart, and plus I'm using tokens, I might play Enemy Controller over the main deck Soul Exchange, because it also helps me get over opposing. Now, not only Faustdonas, but opposing Vanity's Fiends, things like that. So try it out. I think my side deck could use a little bit of work, but overall, I really enjoy the deck. I'll keep using it. Let me know what you guys think. Have a wonderful day. And actually, before I forget, my extra, because I did play some cool cards. So in the extra, I played this, these 3, this. Everything else is just synchro, normal stuff. So you're probably wondering what these are. So these 2 are specifically Wildheart fusions, and the reason I wanted to play Wildheart. What this does, it's a fusion between Wildheart and Avian, so you can use Wildheart and the King of the Swamp with Polymerization or Miracle Fusion, special summon it. Its effect is discard 1 card, destroy 1 Spell the Trap card. Really good if you summon it over Blackwings, because it attacks over everything except specifically Sirocco, obviously, and it loses out. But it's also a discard outlet for, like, again, Treeborn Frog to get out of my hand, or that sweet Dandelion to get that Dandelion out of my hand. Came with a lot. Or it can just go in defense. And 2300, especially against something like Vayu Turbo, for example, right? It's just a weird number. It's just tough to get over. So there's that. And then I played this card, Wild Edge. 2600, Wild Heart plus Blade Edge. This card can attack all monsters on your opponent's side of the field once each. So on the surface, it doesn't seem like a great card, but 2600 is spectacular in Edison, where 2500 is a very specific number, right? Due to like Stardust Dragon, Monarchs are all 2400 or whatever. 2600, very specific. And then it's basically just a Raigeki. So I don't know if there's there are definitely scenarios where you go into this, if you have the option to, over 0. Understanding 0 also blows up the board, but this can just completely tear through entire boards just by itself, simply by being summoned. That should go without saying just because of its effect. But that alone, I think, warrants its spot. Another card that I could have played was called Necroid Shaman. It's a common with Wild Heart as a fusion material. When it's summoned, you destroy one monster your opponent controls, then select one monster in the graveyard and special summon it. So essentially, if I'm playing against, I don't know, heroes, and they have a Caius on board, or Frog Heroes, and I bring out Necroid Shaman, I can, I guess, destroy this, and then special summon their King of the Swamp, if they play it, into attack mode, and then just attack over it for massive damage, just for like game shots. It's basically a burn card for game shots. I ended up choosing this over Necroid Shaman simply because I do think that 2600 comes in more valuable, and it specifically beats through the entirety of Value Turbo, except for their 1 level 8 Value Synchro monster. In theory, it works out great. I never had the chance to play it. Again, I don't know if I drew King of Swamp all but like 3 times the entire day, and I don't think I ever drew Polymerization. I did not draw them together between King of the Swamp, Wild Heart, and like Miracle Fusion or Polymerization. But yeah, that's the deck list. Try it out. I really enjoyed it, but thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day, and bye.